Let's continue on now with Psalm 144 of David. Blessed is the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for battle, my fingers for warfare, my faithful one, my fortress, my haven and my deliverer, my shield in whom I shelter, who makes people subject to me. O Lord, what is man that you should care about him? Mortal man that you should think of him. Man is like a breath, his days are as a passing shadow. O Lord, bend your sky and come down. Touch the mountains and they will smoke. Make lightning flash and scatter them. Shoot your arrows and rout them. Reach your hand down from on high. Rescue me, save me from the mighty waters, from the hands of foreigners whose mouths speak lies and whose oaths are false. O God, I will sing you a new song, sing a hymn to you with a 10-stringed harp. To you who give victory to kings, who rescue his servant David from the deadly sword. Rescue me, save me from the hands of foreigners, whose mouths speak lies, and whose oaths are false. For our sons are like saplings well tended in their youth. Our daughters are like cornerstones trimmed to give shape to a palace. Our storehouses are full, supplying produce of all kinds. Our flocks number thousands, even myriads in our fields. Our cattle are well cared for. There is no breaching and no sortie and no wailing in our streets. Happy the people who have it so. Happy the people whose God is the Lord. Verses 3 and 4. O Lord, what is man that you should care about him? Mortal man that you should think of him? Man is like a breath, his days are as a passing shadow. Those verses serve as the introduction to a particular series of prayers or service that is recited at special times of the year. Let me chant it for you, and while I'm chanting it, take a moment to try to guess or imagine which service I am talking about. Adonai ma'adam v'teidaehu ben enosh v'tichashevehu Adam lahevel dama yamav ketzel over. Now, does this sound like a happy occasion like Hanukkah or Purim? The answer, of course, is no. Those verses introduce the Yizkor, or the memorial service, that is recited on Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, and on the three festivals of the year, Pesach or Passover, Shavuot, the Feast of Weeks, and Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacles. These verses, of course, emphasize the fleeting and transient nature of life, in contrast to God in God's eternal nature. And then the psalmist moves to the idea of foreigners whose mouths speak lies and whose oaths are false. And that verse is repeated twice in verse 8 and verse 11. Foreigners, outsiders, b'nei nechar in Hebrew, whose mouths speak lies and whose oaths are false. This, of course, is a theme that has occupied the psalmist's attention in several other psalms, but particularly in the last few psalms, where he's been very focused on the mendacity and the falsehoods and the lying words of his enemies. And here, too, he revisits that idea, and he ties the idea in with the fleeting and transient nature of life. But then he talks about our sons are like saplings, our daughters like cornerstones, our storehouses are full. In other words, we have everything we need. Life's blessings have been bestowed upon us through God's grace and through God's beneficence. And indeed, and for that reason, we have much to be grateful for and many reasons to enjoy happiness. So, of course, that's a good thing. That's something to be grateful for. But what about all the lies, and what about all the falsehoods? Well, I tie that in with the fleeting and transient nature of life. Man is like a breath. We breathe, and when we breathe our last breath, when the breath leaves our bodies for the last time, life goes out of us, the breath leaves, and the Hebrew for breath, neshama, that Hebrew word is also the same word in Hebrew as the word for soul. However, in this psalm, the word for breath is hevel, not neshama, and hevel is the same word used by Ecclesiastes, Kohelet, at the very beginning of his book. Hevel havelim, futility of futilities, or vanity of vanities. Life is filled with vanity. And so man's life is like futility or vanity. It comes and goes, our days like a passing shadow. And yet, for some reason, as lowly as we are, and as transient and fleeting as our lives are, God cares for us. So the psalmist expresses that with an element of surprise. O Lord, what is man that you should care about him? Mortal man that you should think of him. It's amazing as in terms of the nature of our human nature, as faulty as it is and filled with lies, as opposed to God's eternal true nature. It's amazing that God can be cognizant of us and pay attention to us and care for us at that same time. Indeed, lies are fleeting. They come and they go, but hopefully they do not last, and they have no permanent value, even though sometimes they can inflict long-term harm. There are so many lies being told and going around in our society today, and especially in the sphere of politics around an election season. We hope that this election, once it comes and once it goes, that the lies will fade away and that some eternal truth and some permanent good will emerge from it. But when you think about it, what are the things that last? The things that last, the things that stick from one generation to another, are the things that reflect true values. The beliefs, the ideas, and the principles that we impart to our children and to our grandchildren and for generations down the line. Values of goodness and kindness and compassion. The belief that anything that we do to help our neighbor or to express our love to other people has a permanent and lasting value. Because our children, God willing, and our grandchildren will observe what we do and emulate what we do. And they will allow those values and those truths to persist and to stick in their own lives. But the falsehoods, the lies that we tell or that we live, all those lies have no permanent value. They die when we die. They are as fleeting as our breath. The lies that we tell are like a passing shadow. They come and they go. And so it's a reminder to grasp and to hold on to truth in our lives, to live according to those truths and to teach them to future generations. And if we do all those things, as the psalmist ends, happy the people who have it so, happy the people whose God is the Lord. Those truths and that kind of righteous living, that is what will make us happy. And those are the things of lasting value. Thank you.